So we have this flyer, and I'm going to demonstrate how changing the typeface, and whether it's a serif or sans serif or decorative or script, really changes the mode and the overall feeling of the piece. So right now I just kind of have this standard, I believe this is Assistant Extra Light Assistant. So that's going to be your typical serif font or sans serif font. And we'll work with this first. I really like how I'm doing lowercase. So this is kind of a fun, playful, gentle kind of picture. So I'm being more gentle by using lowercase, which is a feeling you kind of get. Instead of screaming when you do all caps, you're really wanting to grab someone's attention. Here we're kind of wanting to be a little more playful. And so you notice how I kind of hugged the K right where the R is. They seem to kind of mold together really nicely. So this is one way, one type of approach that you could do for this. Or, since this is such a beautiful photo, I can kind of feel a serif being used. So let's try to find a really cool serif to use. I'm going to try a few decorative, kind of see how it works. So with this, it would be too overwhelming to have both of these in this very decorative script. So that's why it's nice to kind of pair these two together. But I'm not really feeling that personally, so we can have some more playful type, because this is a very playful image, and that's almost too childlike. We want to be kind of upscale a little bit with this playful image. So this is a very popular font, but I have a hard time reading it. Those fonts are just so hard to read, especially if this is going to be something digital that people are only going to look at for a few seconds. Some of those decorative fonts like that one, it could be hard to read. Let's try this. This is a slab serif. Let's see how a slab serif looks. It looks pretty okay. I think what I was playing with before was fat face, a Brill fat face. That looks really nice. I really like that. So if I were to apply that to this one as well, notice how it kind of becomes overwhelming. It's too much. And so if we switch it back to a sans serif, or I'm sorry, a lighter weight, so that pairs nice together. And let me spell this correctly, marketing. Okay, that was spelled correctly. And so let's play around with some more ideas. We can make this all on one line and make it a lot smaller. And I'm not 100% sure on that serif, so let's try our sans serif. That was Assistant. Let's try this one. See how that looks when we apply it. No, that's almost too childlike. I'm trying to find one, Helvetica-ish. That's basically the Helvetica option on Canva. So Helvetica-ish, let's see how that, oh, that's way too thick. I need a nice, really thin weight that looks really simple. Catamaran. See, that has these little details and little edges that's competing too much with my serif. So you can see how this is a process. It doesn't just take a few minutes. You really have to trial and error a bunch of fonts, because you don't know how they're really going to pair until you start to play around. Oh, Droid serif. That would be good for my serif font if I wanted to test something out. Ooh, this one's nice and thin. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so this is Hebo Thin, and I love how simplistic it is, because then it counters with this way more complicated. This looks almost like a Didone serif font, because you can see how there's lots of thin weights, or thin strokes, paired with the really, really thick, overdramatic weight strokes. So you can see how that's probably a modern Didone type, a Brill fat face. And so it pairs nicely with this really simple font. So let's group these together, and let's make sure they're the same size. You may have to adjust that manually. I might be able to bring those a little closer. What I'm going to do is group these and play around with the overall sizing of both of these together. So you could have this, and let me ungroup this and just separate them just a hair. This is when you just have to slowly noodle around with things. And I want to add another piece, some kind of call to action, just to kind of make a more complicated flyer. So I'm just going to drag this in. Let's see, take course now. Take course. So this will be good because we can play around with another line of type to try to see if we can't get our headline and this to pair well together. So I'm just going to bring in an element. I'm going to bring in a shape. And this is just going to help us highlight our call to action a little better. Put that in a white box and send that backward. And notice how right now the headline is not really grabbing me because of the call to action is so overwhelmingly big. So that's why call to actions are generally a little bit smaller than the headline. So maybe about that size. It's about right. It's all about finding the right balance with your type. And as you can see, it just takes a lot of just playing around with options. So here is, let me go ahead and play with this headline just a tad. I do like where I kind of paired it like that. So let's bring this up here. Master marketing. So right now this serif font is competing with this serif font for the call to action. So for the call to action, I think I'm going to switch it to whatever this is, Hebo. But I want to make that thicker, so I believe I have a bolder Hebo. So let's go down to Hebo. I think that's after G. Hebo. Where are you, Hebo? There it is. Ooh, so we have a black weight, which is super, super thick. But I don't want it to overwhelm. So what we could do is add a little more kind of elegance to this. Let's increase the spacing between the characters. And that will kind of help set it apart from this top Hebo, which is a thinner weight. So they each kind of take on their own characteristic. And since that's spread out a little bit more, I can probably get away with the Hebo a little bit lighter of a Hebo weight. So let's go, okay, so we could try regular, make sure that's not too thin. That might be too thin, so let's split the difference and just do bold. So sorry you have to see me going through the menu system so much, but they don't really have a way to search for stuff really quickly. So I think we're just going to do a bold, not too bold, but it's also not the black weight, which is overly bold. We could even make this slightly transparent, this little box. Of course, this is more layout design than working with typography. Let's make the headline just slightly bigger. I think marketing probably needs to be bigger. So why don't we do that? We keep master the same size and make marketing a little bit bigger. Let's arrange, put that to the front so I can grab it a little bit better. So you can see kind of a little layout starting to develop here. See if I can't make that just a hair thicker. And I'm going to just kind of mess around with the colors a little bit later. So there's kind of call to action does not take away from the headline. There's enough spacing between the two that they don't feel like one big unit. They shouldn't be. It's the headline as a separate element, and then you have some kind of call to action later on. So I'm going to tweak this a little bit more, and I'll show you what the final is that I come up with in a moment.